It has been asked about the Sohin Nucleus and about the tasks that should be developed in that area, and if it exists some update in regards to the definition of that area, and if we could update about what would be the expression of that area. Sohin Nucleus, which represents a work in the physical plane of a certain commandment, of a certain vessel, the spirit of that nucleus and the meaning of that nucleus is to provide an opportunity of action and work as if humanity was not delayed. So the Sohin Nucleus must offer opportunities of healing, of service, of union, of creation, a little beyond that which would be normal. Because the Sohin Nucleus is as if it was compensating certain delays, certain things that either could not happen or not happening due to with the right intensity and punctuality. We can recognize that it is so on the planet. So in the Sohin Nucleus, it's like a new opportunity of manifesting something as if humanity was updated, as if it was not delayed. So there will always be things happening from the point of view of energy that we not always perceive, we not always value, because it is a little ahead of that which really could be useful and practical, could be current for us. So it's as if that had an energy, had a potential of always giving more than we can perceive of what we can benefit from. Because there's always more that it's always given. It's an offering to God. So the Sohin Nucleus is not made for our current needs. Our current needs wouldn't need all of that. It could be a lot less, our current need. But what there is there additional, it's in quality, whatever there is additional in quality that we cannot absorb and perceive, that we can't learn how to deal with that, it's more, and we're not prepared, not even to recognize it. So that additional thing there is not a waste, because it's offered to God. It's offered to the one and only. It's offered so that a miracle could happen in humanity. So it's enough, it's good. So if someone suddenly is updated, it could take place. We are all in a process. We're all delayed as a humanity. We are delayed. But if at some point someone is updated, the nucleus is for them. The nucleus is not disabled. So those of us who enter the right rhythm and updates themselves, those of us who emerge from this lukewarm situation, tepid situation of the surface, those will find what they need there, because there is more there, the energy is more there. And this is reflected in the size of the house. Some people do not understand how that house is so large. That is reflected in the size of the house. It's not just measures of architecture, it's a symbolic size. Just like someone told me the other day, couldn't it be smaller? Yeah, it could be, and it would be alright. But that is reflecting something. That is reflecting something beyond our capacity of receiving. That is reflecting something beyond our capacity of using, our current capacity, that is reflecting something beyond our capacity of working there. This is what it reflects, as if that was pulling us. So we have a certain capacity of being there that is pulling you for you to have more capacity because it is all there. I'm talking about energy, right? And this is reflected on the size of the house. This is reflected on everything that takes place there. So it's as if something was pulling us and saying, be more, you see. And innerly, subjectively, there's no one who cannot feel it. Being so, most think that is very large. Because it is. And it is supposed to be, because we are showing that we should be more. We're showing that we should do it better. We're showing that the need is great. It's being shown that something is available and we don't even know that we need it. But we were saying in the beginning that humanity is delayed. What do we mean by that? We mean it is delayed in the following sense, that for us to act correctly, for us to, I wouldn't say perfectly, there is no perfectly, but for us to act correctly here on earth, for us to be on the surface of this earth, acting correctly, we would need our personality to be integrated and for it to be acting united with the soul. This would be the current point of the humanity on the surface. So humanity on the surface at this point, after all the work that has been done in all these millions of years, the humanity on the surface at this point should be acting correctly. This is, they should have the personalities integrated, the three bodies working in an integrated way, united to the soul, and channeling the energy from the soul. This would be the point of humanity on the surface right now. So it is delayed because it's not like that. In general, it is not so. There could be a few people like that, but in general, it's not. So humanity is delayed. So the Sohin Nucleus was done for this. So if someone integrates their personality and they are a correct instrument for the soul, they have a whole field of work in the Sohin Nucleus and all the planes of consciousness to develop there. There's nothing lacking there. So this is what we must know. But that is this way from the energy point of view and from the point of view of what must happen there to impel us to update ourselves. So we need to update ourselves. And the energy for this update is found there. They have a very strong energy for this there. And the energy for this update is so strong that people that normally wouldn't like to be hosted precariously, wouldn't like to be camping. In other words, people who are addicted to comfort, they arrive here and they ask to go to Nucleus Sohin. So you see there's an energy that is updating people. It is moving people from the point of which they are to a different point. And this is something evident. The day before yesterday, I said, you should host that person in a certain area because I know about that person's habits and stuff. So you host that person in a certain area. No, they asked to go to the Sohin Nucleus. Oh, did they? Okay, very good. And they managed very well. So you see, that has the strength of update. But it's necessary for us all to know, without any illusion, without any difficulty, that to act correctly today as a humanity would be to have a personality integrated and for it to flow the energy from the soul. As does not happen all the time with people and not with all people, we consider ourselves not updated. That is done and was planned for an updated humanity. So even if we have a process, a very great process of transformation, even if we update ourselves, we'll have a field of work, we'll always have work to do. And despite this update, that nucleus has an energy that goes a little beyond. If a monad sends to the souls and the vehicles a ray of their light, if one of the monads allows to send their energy to some task, the Sohin Nucleus has the strength to sustain it, because it's not every spiritual nucleus that can bear the energy of the souls, of the monads. So in the update of individuals, by they updating themselves and letting the energy of the soul flow through an integrated personality, if those individuals are updated, they don't need to ask for a different place of work. They can work with the energy of the monad right there, because the Sohin Nucleus, as an internal structure, can bear it. We don't know what could happen if someone starts channeling the energy of the monad. There would be some different strength, it will have a different rhythm. And some bodies, especially the physical body, has the need of discharging that energy. If it's a monadic energy that can penetrate an individual, they must discharge that energy. That must be used. And we don't have the practice of dealing with these special energies. And in that physical structure, we can discharge energy just by walking there, going up the stairs and down. You're channeling energy, you're discharging energy. So in any other place, you could go right there and solve it. And you must walk like 10 meters to get somewhere. This makes it possible for you to not be stuck if you enter a certain channel there. So you will never be stuck, crystallized in the physical plane. Of course, that this all opens paths for very important things to happen that is not here on earth logically. But this opens paths if souls and monads find a path of work and service that can bear them and receive them. That can bear them. This is the word. If those souls and monads find that field, that could be a work of soul and monad, and much more, many more times than can be foreseen. And this opens paths for that work which is so necessary to rescue the depths of planet Earth, which is that humanity, or the monads of this humanity, may start to work with their body of light, because it's only when monads start working with the body of light that the comet depths of the planet Earth will start to be balanced. Because it's the body of light, the only vehicle that can work and serve in any world and planet of the system. So as a soul, we cannot enter all worlds. As a monad, we also have a course with the body of light and the monad working in that body of light that could be a work in several planets, in several worlds, because the body of light can enter many worlds in the aura of many planets that do not receive souls, because they don't have a vibration similarity, and the body of light has. So if the body of light starts being used, and if the regent monad starts using the body of light to serve and work, this will balance the karma of planet Earth, because beings from here will be serving in other planets outside of the Earth. So as these things could overnight happen more frequently or unexpectedly, because you never know in the process of some individual what miracle could happen eventually. The Sohin Nucleus can bear all of that. This can all take place normally within the Sohin Nucleus, without the walls cracking, without the house falling apart, without some electric problem, because this could all happen when energies are not very updated. So we have a structure for all of this to take place there. Anyway, we can not only have faith that we can be updated, as we can also go a little forward. Besides our update, we can start serving as a bridge or a channel for many special things, for many things which are not common. And in the Sohin Nucleus there is energy and conditions for this, because the Sohin Nucleus is not this that we can see on the surface of the Earth. The Sohin Nucleus is something very broad and has connection points even in a great vessel. So that is all there for us to recognize, for us to experience, for us to, and through that we can serve and we can update. We'll do a work of update in our beings, which is very positive for humanity as a whole. So that corresponds to an ideal situation on the surface of the planet. That does not correspond to the current situation of the planet. It corresponds to an ideal situation. That is, and as it is done in faith, you can expect things to happen ideally. And there's energy for everything to be developed. If someone is having a special development, they will be able to work there. They will have a field of work, the evolutionary plane for that, house for everything to be developed there. But in this perspective, it's very important the quality of our thoughts and gratitude are very important. The gratitude that being. But after all that, what can I do? You must see the quality of your thoughts, and you must see your gratitude for that, for what is there, for that to be materialized. If we reflected and saw how it was materialized there without us even noticing how it was, so we need gratitude for that, and a very specific and positive thought in all those directions. And if we have understood that and have positive thoughts about it, and if our gratitude is effective, the emanation of that nucleus in the physical plane including even the emanation of the house, the emanation of the garden, the emanation of the forests, of the lake, will be more and more healing. But for this healing part of that area to be developed, for that healing part to really irradiate and incarnate and act, our correct thoughts and gratitude are necessary. This is not a condition. Our correct thought and our feeling of gratitude are the necessary elements. This is the seasoning that us, as human beings incarnated, need to add there for the energy of healing to radiate freely. So the energy of healing somewhere, it's present for so many different factors, and that we'll never know. The energy of healing is free. We don't know when it started. It's something free. So the energy of healing, we never know why it's there. But one of the reasons for it being there is our thought and our gratitude. Because if there was not on earth, on the planet, in some level of consciousness, a correct thought about that, and a profound gratitude, that would have not been raised, that would have not been materialized. So our role is correct thinking and gratitude. So the Sohin Nucleus and its team, because it has a team there working, the team of Sohin, that team is totally updated in that field and totally available and prepared to work through us, to serve through us and operate in everything that it needs to operate in this humanity of surface. And they are asking what the shelter is. The shelter is the sector of rescue, and the shelter is formed by inner will in individuals. Individuals must have a very defined inner will and very clear. The individuals who are in charge of the shelter, they have inner will, universal love, universal, not to having the risk of preferring someone over others. Love is universal, that there is no possibility for that individual of having more love for one shelter than the other, having more love for one collaborator than the other. There is no possibility of having more love for one task than the other. So love is universal there. Everything must be, and thus, and despite inner will and universal love, that is based on healing, on the energy of healing. And if we have an inner will of serving, if we have a very universalized love, the energy of healing must be present there. The energy of healing will be there very naturally, and will be in relationships through the energy of healing, through the shelter, the opportunities that the shelter brings, that it promotes. Of course that the shelter is in formation ever since it's been, and it's something much more beyond that which exists today, because the shelter is not only about human beings. The shelter is about animals, about plants. The shelter is about beings from other kingdoms, and this must all be included in the shelter and be developed. So this could also suggest a lot of things. The shelter and the network of service are very similar. If you change shelter from network of service, it's almost the same. These are different titles for different situations of the same work. Because as the shelter is in the rural area, the shelter is within a certain structure. The network of service is not in the rural areas, it's in a city. It has a different material structure, more detailed. It's the same service in different ways, in different situations and different circumstances. And both works can be taken even by the same people. If they can be in more than one sector, they can work in both. And in the immediate help sector is also the same thing, the same work, but it has 3 different titles because it has 3 different ways and structures. But if that would develop, there's no difference in these things, and people go from one thing to another, feeling the same energy, having the same opportunity of serving, the same opportunity of being helped. But this compassion and mercy, which are part of this work, this is very essential for spiritual energy to flow. Efficiency and intelligence are not only enough, because otherwise we would do a social work or material work that could be very useful. But love, compassion and mercy are necessary there, and the energy of healing is necessary there to complete that activity. Compassion is needed because compassion shows us what others need. These are not what shows us what we need, and not others' complaints or what they tell us they need. This could be completely real. But what really shows us what a being needs is compassion. If we do not have compassion developed, we cannot understand that. And that work is not only helping in that which the being effectively needs in their appearances, but by helping in that which is the need, we also need to help them to know the spiritual laws. Otherwise, it would be very incomplete. Those sectors would be incomplete. So through compassion, through inner comprehension, you will know what others need. But without forgetting that what all need are living spiritual laws, to knowing spiritual laws and living them. Because when we know spiritual law and we live spiritual law, those material laws will be lived like a game. There's no problem at all in living any material law. For those who live a spiritual law, for example, there's no problem in being hungry. For those who live a spiritual law, there's no problem in being sick. For those who live spiritual laws, it's not a problem to be in the situation that they're in. You see, if the individual is in contact with some spiritual law, if they are in contact, so from there, we will help them, if it's in the plan, to be relieved in the rest. So the most important thing in the shelter, in the network of service, in any work like that, is not the material part, because the material part, when it's lacking, it's a consequence of a spiritual law that is not being practiced there, experienced there. The material part, health, resources, These are all consequences. Those are not the point of start of anything. The point of start is for you to see how the spiritual process is there, what kind of spiritual help it needs there. And it's for you to perceive what law that individual doesn't know or doesn't live. Your work is that in the shelter or in the service network. The work is this. By knowing this point and being available to help an individual to solve that, the material part will come by itself. The material part will come in addition, and the most impossible situations are solved. Things happen. Problems of health. But the main thing is this compassion. The main thing is for you to have this inner knowledge, for you to have this inner perception of what could happen, what could help the individual in that relationship they had with spiritual laws, and in their possibilities of developing spiritual laws in their lives. Within this compassion and this work, with the shelter of that network of service, we would have to count on mercy. We need to count on it. We need to go from the principle that there will be mercy in work. There will be mercy. That is, for that energy of healing, for that spiritual energy that transforms matter, that transforms people. That energy will work. We must have faith that mercy will take place. You don't have mercy with anyone. You have compassion, but mercy, you don't. Mercy comes from above. The heights must have mercy, so these things work together. You can count on mercy from above. You can count on that energy if you have compassion. And if you are working with compassion, so the mercy from above will join your work, and then your work will be perfect. Because everything needs compassion and mercy. And you are a point of connection, a very important point of connection in this. This mercy from above is from above, and one of the works of mercy, when we invoke, and when it comes, we can clearly see that the positive karmic things that we have archived of individuals, they will leave the archive and they'll join the situation. So this was mercy. Mercy does not commit injustices. Mercy does not. Mercy could bring karmic favorable situations which were not available for this incarnation. Mercy could bring it. And that karmic situation comes. It was not supposed for this incarnation, and it can totally change that individual. You see the point that mercy reaches, so we have to count on this. And before counting on our strength, on our presence, on our person, we need to count on mercy, because without mercy, everything that we have is not worth much. Because everything that we have, we can deal with the individual, with the karmic current possibilities at the moment. And sometimes, even especially here on the surface of the earth, karmic pictures are very limited, because humanity developed a lot of negative karma more than positive sometimes. There is no balance between these things. So in the face of certain cases, in which it's very evident the negative karma is predominant. The negative karma is very evident and is in action. So mercy is necessary. Mercy needs to descend this energy of the heights and bring karmic situations for that individual, and there will be a much wider development. Many times we're in the face of a situation in which karma only allows to relieve that situation but not to solve it. Sometimes it even allows you to support, but karma does not allow the individual to be free from it. So you need to count on mercy, you need to base on this energy of mercy, you need to invoke that, because this brings possibilities which were kept for that individual for future situations. The energy of compassion that you count on to deal with an individual, the energy of compassion makes a bridge with the inner self of the individual, and the inner self of the individual will answer to this appeal of those who are collaborating, because many times the inner self of the individual is not in the process, so they need to count on mercy so that the inner self can enter the process and participate in the process in an evolutionary way, and not only suffering, not only going through the trials that brings. The inner self could be going through the trials. Sometimes the inner self is suffering. So a lot of help, a lot of presence of this mercy is necessary so that this inner self may change its position, may change its attitude, and may attract a new situation by itself, may invoke this mercy. These are typical processes that could take place in the shelter. These should take place in the networks of service. This should be These processes should be visible. So we are in a formation as collaborators of these things. We are forming ourselves for these processes to take place. There are certain moments in which it seems that limitations can be transferred. Certain moments in which it seems that situations cannot be changed. In certain cases, it gives us this impression. In those cases, we need to act as if everything could be solved. We cannot ever confirm that that is a limited situation. We can never affirm that. If you were dealing with someone who cannot walk, you can ever confirm that that being is so. Mentally, especially, because it's our plane that has more strength. In the other planes too. And in the physical plane, you are dealing with a physically paralyzed person, but in their feelings, their actions, you cannot confirm that. You must not reinforce that, because mercy could act at any moment. That situation of paralysis could change, because a paralysis does not only exist in the physical plane. For you to be paralyzed in the physical plane, it's because you're paralyzed in another level. So in physical laws, they cannot always move, but in the other planes they can, because it's different laws. So if you're dealing with a paralyzed person physically, and if you confirm that, you prevent that to be changed in other planes, to be transformed, and that needs to be transformed to change, the change in the physical plane is the last one that takes place. So they are not lost causes, that are not anything that definitive in life. So these sectors should be very clear and present with all those who deal with these things. If you are in the face of a being who is physically paralyzed, that soul is not paralyzed, that soul is in a different level. Another soul, their mind is in the mental plane. It could be developed, it could work and evolve, because these are different laws in the mental plane. So we are impelling these levels are not paralyzed, they are in different dimensions and planes. So we are impelling the development of those levels, the action of those levels, the opposite of what is being presented. And what is being presented could even go through some influence of that inner movement, this movement in the other planes. But we need to do everything that is in our scope. Everything. Because after we do everything that we could have done, everything that was up to us, after, then we can count on other strengths, other forces that is not in our possibility. And thus we'll learn how to work together with those spiritual energies. We'll learn how to collaborate with superior laws. We'll be able to collaborate with unknown aspects for the beings who are a little hypnotized by the external situation. We need to consider them like an integrated being. It's not because they lost something in the physical plane. The integration is the monad, the untouched nucleus is the monad. We can even have a disintegrated body through some explosion, but the monad is integrated. Our plane of integration is the monad, so we must be there. We must consider all there, and also ourselves, because then we can go through inferior processes, through processes in the level of the soul, the mind, the emotional body, and the physical. We can go through those processes in a harmonious way, in understanding, but we have a plane of integrity where nothing can be removed, where there is no disintegration. We must be there. Because when we're not incarnated, we could be in one of those bodies in the plane of the soul, or in the plane of the monad, so that's where we should remain. In spite of being here on earth, spending some time, and developing things. But we shouldn't forget about what we are, what our house is, our nucleus is. So this is very relative. So if we have a view of the shelter, of the network of service, the immediate action, just as some material action, as some physical and useful thing, then we don't quite comprehend this work, because there is a transformative intention which is basic here. Transformative of the beings involved, transformative of the environments, and of the work itself, the task itself. Nothing is to be crystallized. There should be continuous transformation, and that may accompany transformation of beings, because beings transform. The environment should be transformed. The task with them will be different. a being that was transformed, you developed a different word with them because they're different. The environment should be different too. Different means the vibration of the environment must have changed. It's a different vibration. So you enter an environment like this today and you find everything slow, dense, heavy, and then you go there after 15 days and it could be a different environment. The same physical place, but the vibration could be different. This is the work. The work of vibration, also inner work. If there is a group that needs to be helped, if they are in contact with a group of service, there could be some interaction of auras, so the aura of the group of service starts. And the group of service should be a specific training that is internal, so that the aura of the group of service maintains luminous. By transmuting, they should not absorb that. When they unite, they will transmute that right away, that moment. So, a work of continuous transmutation is needed in the group of service, and this change mostly takes place with the mental level of people. So where do people have their minds? Where do people have their feelings? That produces where you're working, where you're serving. Because if we don't have a continuous work of maintaining our minds in an elevated place and maintaining our thoughts natural in an elevated level, we end up being intoxicated by the environments of work. Those who work in hospitals, they can notice that in their bodies. So if you work in a hospital, you need to be continuously transmuting, not absorbing. You absorb that to transmute, but you don't get all of that. You elevate it. So you need to be transmuting all the time, which is very good and very positive and very necessary for the environment of the hospital, so that the hospital is not sad, so that hospitals may not have a heavy vibration. So this is a work of transmutation that takes place where our mind, our emotion is, our reactions, and where our consciousnesses are. This is a work of continuous transmutation, because the work of assistance or service itself, service in the face of need, this is obvious. This takes place and will take place, but it's also necessary to have a work of transmutation for that situation to be transformed, for the environment to be transformed, for vibrations to be settled, and the aura of people will benefit from this work. If we participate in the lunch, in the network of service, apparently we're all doing the same day. We're all nourishing ourselves. But no, those who are eating with gratitude, they change the environment completely. Those who are putting themselves in connection with their most elevated levels, that has transmuted the place. It's changing the energetic value of that environment. So those who went there to get food, they won't only get food, they will get a stimulation in that system, in the energy system, in their subtle bodies. This is what we're doing there, eating with them. But we're not eating with them to be humanitarians. This is very obvious. This is basic. You don't need to a spiritual center for that. You'll be eating with them because you're in a different attitude, so we'll be transmuting the environment, the energy, the energetic plane of those people, the subtle bodies of those people are being stimulated by your presence there. You're not there to eat with them. Eating with them is the last thing that is taking place. To eat with them is the last reason for you being there, not the first one. Is the last one. If you're not there doing this work, you can eat somewhere else. There will be no difference.